Checking connection. Okay. Well, hey guys, welcome back. It's episode 2 of Vino and Vulnerability. And I'm Dr. Linné. This is my husband, John. And we wanted to start these episodes for 3 reasons. We want to be more authentic, because we know that improves emotion and what you're really feeling and what you're going through. So that's one part of why we're doing this. The second reason is because it takes courage. It takes courage, and we all need to take a little bit more of a risk in our life, and this is hard for me to do. It's hard to go live. So that's the second reason, because I need to do it. We need to do it.
Yeah.
And the third reason is because we love wine and we want to drink it with you and get to know our community a little bit better. So tonight's episode is about marriage or any relationship where you are committed. And please understand that we don't have our stuff all figured out. We know that. That's
Yes.
why we're doing this episode. And we want to talk about what no one told us before we got married. And hopefully a lot of you can relate to that, because relationships are tough. And recently in the media or in social media, a very prominent couple announced that they are splitting up. And interestingly enough, that announcement came after we decided we were going to do this episode. But I feel like it's really timely, because so often we look to people who are on social media as couples, not us, but people who are really famous and do live events everywhere, and they have millions of followers. And people look to them and they think, hey, that's what my marriage or my relationship should look like. And I'm here to tell you right now that when we put other people's relationships on a pedestal, when we admire other relationships, what we forget is that sometimes we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And so part of tonight is an effort for us to be honest about what we've really struggled with. We've been married now for 8 years, together 10, and we don't have it all figured out. But Vino and Vulnerability here, if you are just joining us, then please let us know where you're from. We'd love to hear where you're from. Just put a little comment up there or give us a wave and shout and say hi. In fact, there we go.
And I want to mention on our last live, there was somebody that was Linné's longtime friend that had been friends for many, many years that we both missed who it was. So if you're on tonight, maybe you can give Linné a private message, because the comments that you guys leave, we can't go back and look at them. So anything that we missed tonight, we can't go back and look at those. So I just wanted to kind of point that out.
Yeah. And whoever it was, thank you so much. Well, I think that getting right into it, one of the first things, if you don't mind me saying, one of the first things that no one told us is that in a relationship, you're always going to be struggling with a fine line between self-care and service. At least that has been my struggle. When do I take care of myself, and when do I set boundaries and say, no, I need to do something for myself, or you know what, I need to just stop and I need to serve you right now. That's what's most important. That's been a huge struggle for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I see that too. And I think it's more evident right now for us because we have a dog and he's a puppy. And so there's lots of things that come up where, you know, one of us needs to go shower, and he's such a handful that if one of us is showering, then the other person has this handful to deal with. So there's a big fine line with, do I put the other person out and take care of myself, or do I suck it up and be stinky for a little bit longer? And it's really about finding that balance. And I also want to say that every person and every couple
told us was that 9 out of 10 fights are from one or both parties not properly expressing their needs. And it's usually a fight over the small stuff.
Yeah.
It's people told us before we got married, oh, you're going to fight over money. You're going to fight over whether or not to have kids. You're going to fight over the big stuff. And to be truthful, we have never fought over the big stuff.
Yeah.
Every single one of our stupid arguments have been over small things.
Yeah.
And what we have come to discover is that most of the time it's because one of us did not properly express what they needed. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and on top of that, a lot of times they're just over, things where you're tired or you're emotional or whatever, and somebody didn't leave the cap on the toothpaste right, or you didn't put the dishes in the dishwasher right.
Always put it on right. Just for the record, I always put it on right.
But it's those things, at least for us, it's never over the, you bought a second house in Uruguay or something like that. It's always something like really, really, after you look back at the argument, you realize, oh, it really wasn't a big deal. But those are the biggest ones for us, at least.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I think another thing is that people never told us, no one told us that I recall, your relationship is never going to look like one on TV. It's never going to be hot and romantic all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is definitely not hot and romantic all the time. Quickly fizzled out. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say that's true. But I mean, it's to be expected where when you get in a relationship and you're comfortable and you're married for a while, it's not going to look like Grey's Anatomy all the time, and it's going to be more consistent things in your life,
Getting to that, which was one of our next points, the consistent things. Romance in a relationship is completely counterintuitive, I think.
Yeah.
When you're growing up, before you're in a committed relationship or before you're married, you think that the Cinderella story is what romance looks like, and that the ideal husband should be whining and dining you.
Mm-hmm.
So good start. Should be whining and dining you and buying you gifts and writing you poetry and singing you songs and showing up on a white horse. And we think that that's romance. And what we come to find out that in a relationship, what it really looks like is, oh my goodness, he cooked dinner. Wow. He took out the trash and it was my night. Yeah, he's gonna have sexy time tonight.
Yeah.
Or oh, I'm sorry.
And sometimes we've learned, and we were talking to some friends that some of the romantic parts are just counterintuitive for guys and gals.
Definitely, it's different for men and women.
Yeah,
I think.
And because guys think that they just have there's certain things that are the romantic things that they have to do to impress their gals, and it's very counterintuitive, and like just cleaning the kitchen or mopping the floors or something like that has been more like done better than I don't know, just some of the other things that most guys think are the really hot things.
Yeah. What he knows is that if he gets on a decluttering tangent with me, time is pretty high because that means a lot to me. And it's not what we grew up as girls. It's not the Cinderella story. It's when our husband shows interest in what means a lot to us, or ladies, if I'm wrong, please tell me. But I think that most of us, when you're 10 years into a marriage, at least, your husband running around with the shirt off is not what's going to turn you on. Yeah. But your husband running around with the vacuum, now that is hot. That's hot. Yes. Yeah. You're the hottest when a vacuum is in your hands. I'm just saying. I think too, that brings us to another point, is that no one really tells you that passion is not love, and they shouldn't be confused. Do you want to explain that a little bit? Yeah,
there's you can be loving and have passion, but if there's passion in your relationship, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's love, because I've seen plenty of relationships where there's a lot of passion, a lot of heat there, but it's just a bad relationship where they have just that passion there. And so I think it's encouraging, or maybe encouraging is not the right word, but I think it's important for people to know, especially in new relationships, when they have this, just because it seems like excitement and fireworks are going off all the time, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good relationship, or a relationship worth keeping going.
True, very true. In fact, we've seen plenty of our friends who had lots of passion, but they shouldn't have been together. They didn't have a friendship. Yeah. They didn't know how to communicate. Probably our last from your relationships will surface. Any issue that you had with a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife before this relationship is gonna somehow rear its stinky little head.
And I would say family stuff.
And family stuff.
Yeah, yes. Because some of the things that, healthy or unhealthy, your family dynamics are going to enter your relationship, whether it's how you argue or whether it's how you do things and communicate, and I think I've got a really great example. We have some friends that I was always really encouraged by. His family was great at, whenever there was any issue or whatever, they always were very quiet, and how they approached any types of issues. They sorry, I'm not very articulate. I'm really tired tonight, but they would always approach the things quietly and gently and very articulately, and so they would reach these outcomes with, whenever there was an issue, very gracefully. And he brought that into he's brought it into his marriage, but he brought it into his household with a group of college guys and friendships and all those kinds of things. So it's not just the negative too. There's also the positive as well. That is true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That is very true. And I feel like, I feel like for me, the struggle that I've had and the past dramas that I've had is trying not to bring in past relationships where the men were super critical and projecting that wrongfully onto my husband. And let me give you an example. So before him, I dated a couple of men because apparently I like pattern. Helped me lose the last 15 pounds.
And you know how that goes.
Oh yeah, but I didn't handle it correctly. That's a whole nother live post. But that I was too funny, or that I tried too hard to be funny. Didn't like my family or my family dynamics. I should dress differently or wear different colors. Like
just trying to change.
Just trying to change me. And I dated a couple of these types of individuals. What I have found is that has kind of seeped its way into our marriage, because the second that John shares a concern, or he is frustrated with something and he's bringing it to my attention, I go in immediate defense mode, assuming that he's criticizing me. And that has been really, really, I would say that is the foundation. We're going to talk about how we've kind of addressed it, but that has been the foundation of most of our fights, is that one person brings up a frustration and the other person gets on the defense and it just gets ugly.
Yeah.
In fact, what's really funny is that after our last live, we had a great live with all of you. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun and so much interaction. And we got off the live feeling really great. And no sooner did we shut all of our devices down, we got in one of our most heated arguments that we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And it could have been the wine. It could have been the fact that we were fatigued. We'd had a really long day. We don't really know, but we seriously were arguing over the dumbest stuff. The dumbest stuff.
Yeah.
And it was intense. And we just came together the next day and said, you know what? Hi, Lady Beth. We just came together.
Shut it down that night. We just shut the argument down that night and realized that we were tired and emotions were high and yeah, just sometimes that's what you have to do, is just realize that it's not a great time to have an argument, especially when tired, wine, alcohol, tiredness.
Yep.
And I learned a long time ago a really cool phrase. It's called HALT, HALT. It's when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you don't make big decisions. So when you're in Costco and you haven't had lunch yet, and you guys are starting to nitpick at each other, that's when you want to look at the situation and maybe. Because those are the easiest times to get in the biggest arguments, is when you're hungry or angry, lonely, or tired.
Yeah.
And I think also wine plays into that tired category. Because wine can make you tired or whatever.
Yeah, we've now had to warn each other, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Or tonight we're having wine. It's not up for discussion.
Yeah.
If we need to talk about something, we do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So for us, wine and emotional sleep or fatigue, lack of sleep, means that we can't have a conversation. So I love that HALT.
Yeah,
I think that's
you're not firing on all cylinders. And when I worked with kids, and if I had gotten an altercation with the kids, or when I say altercation, I mean the kids were trying to hit me physically. That doesn't mean I'm altercating. But
you were hitting the kids back.
You're
hitting the kids back.
But I would come home from a day like that and say, tonight, if there's anything serious on the plate, we're gonna pause that and we're gonna bring that to tomorrow when we can both have a real conversation about that issue.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So.
Yes, maybe we should call it WHALT.
WHALT.
Add wine.
Wine.
Hungry. What was it?
Doberman. Angry, lonely, or tired.
Angry, lonely, and tired. Okay, so those are all the reasons why we should not engage in major discussion. So that's the first tip that we have for you as far as what has helped us. And the other thing is I want to provide you with some resources, because we have found a couple of resources that are really useful for figuring all this out. Because at the end of the day, no one has this figured out. I don't care if you are a psychologist, you are a marriage counselor, or you have been married for 50 years. You are still learning every day how to be a good partner.
Yeah. And
man, we don't have it figured out. We have a lot to work on, but we're trying. And I think that that's the key. Every day you try. So I wanted to share with you a couple of books that have really helped me. One of them, John introduced me to, and it's called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud. He's also written a book called Marriage and Boundaries. And while the book is written a little bit old school, the concept is so incredibly helpful because I think when you are living with someone, you have to be able to set up healthy boundaries. It gets back to our first point of no one tells you the self-care versus service boundary and what that looks like. And we still haven't figured that out, but we wanted to share with you that that's what we struggle with. So that book, that author is incredible. If you want to learn how to really set up healthy boundaries in a relationship or any relationship at work, with friends, with your spouse, it doesn't matter. But having healthy boundaries is super important. It's biblical. And it took me a long time to realize that having boundaries is the best way to have a healthy relationship.
And it carries into work, it carries into family, it carries into all kinds of aspects of your life, because I read it while I was in college before Linné and I were married, and it kind of goes with some of those. Well, I don't want to go too much into that boundaries, but it just helped me a lot with some of those things that we all struggle with, whether it's time commitments, and there's just a lot of amazing boundary issues that we all don't. I think a lot of people don't realize that you have until you read it and you realize some of the things that you've been doing or I've been doing that that they touch on. Yeah.
So that's one book. I totally agree with you. The other one that's really helpful, this is actually like a marriage counselor in a book. So this one, the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman. This book is seriously the best marriage counseling in writing I have ever read or seen. It literally even has the exercises that you would probably do in a counseling session in this book. Every chapter is incredible. It really kind of helps you get to know your spouse. And we'll actually do a blind test where we see how well we know each other and reveal that to you live on Instagram and YouTube, just to let you know, like, there's probably a lot about each other that we don't know. And that's scary to me, but it's also kind of exciting. So I highly recommend this book because your spouse or your partner is willing to do the exercises with you maybe once a week. I'm going to be so bold as to say you may not need to see a marriage counselor, although I think counseling is necessary for everyone, seriously. But it is literally the best counsel I've ever seen in a book. So those 2 authors, John Gottman and then also Henry Cloud, are going to be so helpful for helping you figure all this out, because we're still figuring it out.
And I also want to say that there's been some really cool things I've heard. Can
you come just a little bit closer?
Oh, yeah, I'll go. I had some professors in college that said some really great things about marriage, and a couple of them were you want to study your partner like you're trying to get to know them every day. You're trying to learn a little bit more about them every day and approach them that way. And there was one professor that was saying that he'd been married to his wife for like 30 years or something of that nature, and one day they were having a discussion, and he didn't know their whole marriage that she liked going to the zoo. And so if we can approach our partner, spouse, or the person that we're dating like you want to learn as much about them as you can every day, and it doesn't have to be, picking their brain like crazy or whatever, but just little things. And there's a couple things that we like to do to check in. And one of the things that we do every day is, what was the highlight of your day?
Yeah.
And we kind of do a little bit of that, and just basically checking in on the day and how it was. And then occasionally we'll even do other things like, what was your favorite snack when you were in grade school? Or
you're really good at that.
Thanks. Love.
You're really, no, seriously. I'm not just saying that this because we're live, but he asks the best questions when it comes to figuring out what makes people tick. When we have people over, he asks them great questions. He asks me great questions. I just think it's so cool.
Thank you.
I think it's such a great quality to have.
Yeah.
Did I cut you off?
No, you did great. So yeah, I think it's important, and we can carry that in with our non-romantic relationships and friends. And the more that we get to know people, and the more that we can really pour in and ask the questions that really are important and make sense, because it's just good to know people.
And the last thing I'll say that we're working on that is helping, we have found that a lot of our fights have been because there was built up resentment or frustration that didn't get expressed. Again, it gets back to those fights that are a result of not expressing your needs. We have found that if we take time, for us, it's either Saturday or Sunday mornings over coffee. And we have not done this as regularly as we would like.
Right. Yeah.
This is the truth. So when I tell you that this works for us, please understand we don't do it every week.
Yeah.
But we want to. Because this is what we call Vino and vulnerability, things that we want to do. But really, what we do is we sit down and we say, okay, this week, was there anything that I did that frustrated you that we didn't talk about? Was there any need of yours that you had that did not get met? Was there anything I did that really made you happy that I should do more of? What can I do to help you have a better week next week? What does that look like? And those are just some of the sample questions, and you can make your own. But the point is, every week, if you check in with your spouse or your partner and you do that, hey, what bothers you this week? Let's talk about it. Especially when you're relaxed and it's Saturday morning and you're having some coffee and you're not really that stressed and you don't have to worry about a whole lot right now. That little bit of addressing the small things as you go keeps you from having the big blowouts.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yes.
I really feel like it keeps, excuse me, I just burped on live, yay. It really keeps you from having the big blowouts.
I also want to say before we close,
yes.
if there's any questions that anybody wants to ask, you could post them. And we won't name anybody specifically for your question. So if you ask a question, we're not going to say your name. We'll just read the question and try to answer it as best we can. And if there aren't any questions, then
if we don't have any questions, we'll close it out. But I just wanted to make sure that nobody had any questions.
And once again, before we also end, I wanted to say again that there was somebody on here the last time that has been friends with Linné for 30 plus years and mentioned that, but we couldn't see who. So just personal message, Linné.
Yeah. I want to know who I've known for 30 years.
We want to know who that was.
Because it probably was from junior high or high school.
Yeah.
Whew.
So, all right. Any questions?
Any questions before we close up this fabulous section? If not, that's totally fine. But you can always write your questions in the comments down below this post if you're on Instagram right now, or in the comments on YouTube. If you're live on YouTube right now, that is totally fine. Feel free to ask me anything. But I just want to say, oh, hi. I don't want to mispronounce your name, but Hi. If you have any questions yet, like I said, feel free to ask them in the comments below. But before we close, I just want to say thank you to all of you. Your support has been incredible as we try this new thing on called Vino and Vulnerability. This is new for us because, as you know, I also do YouTube tutorials, and I do different posts on Instagram or Facebook that are more educational based. So this whole being vulnerable and drinking wine with you guys is not only fun for us, but it's a new thing. So if there are subjects that you want us to cover, if there are things that you want us to be vulnerable about,
that's great. Yeah.
If there's anything that you're thinking, hey, I want this couple to tell us a little bit more about this vulnerable subject, then please put it in the comments below and we'll put it in the queue for the next time that we go live. So if there aren't, oh, hi, Matt. Thank you. Thank you for helping me with that because I wasn't sure how to pronounce your beautiful name. I just want to say, if there aren't any questions, we just want to let you know we love you. And we're going to be back for episode number 3. So leave your comments down below and tell us what you would like that topic to be. And we'll let you know what wine we're going to have too, if you want to join us. But if that's it, then I just want to say much love to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. It means so much to us.